All right. Book of Wisdom. When a conscious awakened spirit occupies a material body in conscious unity, the whole being is united with the divine. It expands out beyond the limitations of space and time. Mindfulness controls the thoughts and feelings and clears an inner place so that in silence and peace it is ready to receive an influx of divine mindfulness, and meditation opens a way of communication whereby the spirit of man may communicate with the spirit surrounding the divine. It is a higher form of prayer, a controlled concentration of thought. Book of Wisdom, Chapter 1, Meditation and Morals. The only way a man can become fully awakened spiritually is to know his true nature and to strive for communication with the spiritual realm. This can best be achieved by meditation, or perhaps mindfulness expresses it better. This is a state of conscious awareness of all the potentialities within man, the ability to cut off all material disturbances and to bring the spirit into harmonious relationship with a higher, more compatible realm. It means gaining complete mastery over all material impulses, urges, and desires. When a conscious awakened spirit occupies a material body in conscious unity, the whole being is united with the divine. It expands out beyond the limitations of space and time. Mindfulness controls the thoughts and feelings and clears an inner place so that in silence and peace it is ready to receive an influx of divine mindfulness, and meditation opens a way of communication whereby the spirit of man may communicate with the spirit surrounding the divine. It is a higher form of prayer, a controlled concentration of thought. Clearing an inner place to form the shrine of the heart does not mean that it serves no purpose. The usefulness of a is in its empty space. The usefulness of a basket or a pot is in its emptiness. All wisdom and all knowledge, the answer to every question, are not to be found outside of man, but within him. He need not seek outside himself for the solution to the riddle of his nature. He need not traverse the earth to find the answer. It can be reached from within himself. There too he will find all that supplies the needs of his spirit. In his daily life and in all he does, each man should conduct himself as though intending to be a living example to others. He should act as though proclaiming his dedication to service in the greatest cause any man can serve, and as though inviting others to join him. He should be a leader, showing the way and guide indicating the path others should follow, the path each must travel alone. Every thinking man must surely realize now that there is something more to life than a search for happiness, wealth, or luxury. That life must be more than an idle drifting, the only efforts being bent towards seeking the still waters of contentment in the shallows of pleasure. There must be more than walking around seeking enjoyment. There is indeed something more to it than that. There is a purpose to life, and that purpose is living. Living is meant in its fullest sense and does not refer to mortal life alone. Mortal life is the servant, the threshold of a greater life, and should be regarded only in this light. The duty of all is to awaken their own spirit to consciousness. If, however, has not been achieved, then the best thing to do is to follow the precepts and advice contained in the writings of those who have themselves awakened the spirits of consciousness. For the first step is sufficient to be self controlled and self disciplined, the efforts of every man being bent towards learning more about himself. He must cultivate mindness to discover his own motives and to know what lies behind every thought, every word, and every action. He must discover every cause and understand its effect. He must know why he does a certain thing and by what means he achieves it. He must decide upon a plan of life, upon certain objectives, and carry them through to a successful conclusion. He must choose a path and follow it through to the end, not looking too far ahead that he ignores what lies before his feet. He must firmly ignore the cries of diverting desires and disregard the bypaths of foolish fancies. And yet, no mortal man knows the true laws of justice, and no mortal man has ever seen the face of truth unveiled. No man has yet risen sufficiently in greatness to proclaim his ability to live free from all restraint imposed by others. Some may proclaim their ability or right to do so, but these do it not from strength, but from moral weakness. Their affirmation of their own freedom is, in fact, a declaration of war upon the liberties of others. They are no more than spineless creatures who decry the laws of morality and high principles only because these seek to restrain the baser instincts and restrain their unhealthy carnal outlets. While disparaging the existing codes whereby men live, they have neither the ability nor the strength to replace them with anything equally good and worthy. Certainly, whatever they did produce would never tend towards the spiritual elevation of mankind. Such as these must not be pandered to, and if they refuse to bear their fair share of the burdens of mankind, they should not be humored. Those who seek to assert their individuality at the expense of others are a menace not to be tolerated. The rule should be that everyone is to be granted the greatest possible freedom up to, but not beyond the point where it infringes upon the freedom, rights, and contentment of others. It is impossible to give complete freedom to any man, and no man is worthy of it. Any freedom attained at the expense of another man is an unworthy freedom. No man has the right to condemn a moral code or standard of principles until he himself has risen above them. No laws, no principles, and no code should be discarded until they have been replaced by something proven to be better. The replacement of those already established anywhere is no easy task, and one certainly far beyond the experience and ability of any one person. Therefore, in the present condition and development of mankind, goodness and righteousness are expressed by the disciplined acceptance of the moral law and courageous submission to the written law. These must, however, evolve with man to meet his changing and greater needs. An evil custom or law is to be cast aside, even though it be established and accepted by many generations. A good custom or law should be taken over and followed, even if it be observed by your enemies and followed by them. The decision as to what is good and what is bad cannot lie within the province of any one man. Laws are made and laws are changed, but no man truly knows what is right and what is wrong. This can be discovered only in the inspired books compiled by the hands of the illuminated men. The time is not far distant when men should no longer think in terms of being good or wicked, rich or poor, sick or healthy, but in terms of being spiritual or material. The basic motive behind a righteous and good life is not the quest for happiness. Righteousness, goodness, and morality are other words meaning self-discipline, duty, obligation, and service. These form a foundation upon which a proper way of life can be built, and within the framework of this foundation, the quest of happiness is certainly not restricted. Indeed, not only is it encouraged, but also earnestly urged. Nearly everyone has principles of some sort, but all have a tendency to push back the frontiers of these principles to suit themselves. Their idea of morality is subordinated to their material interests. Men should not be hypocrites with themselves and should freely admit to this tendency to subordinate their principles to their own selfish interests. A standard of morality or code of principles which is not absolute and unshakable is worthless as a support and no standard at all. Only the very wisest of men can set their own standards, and the wisest of men are too wise to do so. As far as man is concerned, the purpose of life is development and preparation for something greater. This cannot be undertaken in a half-hearted manner or at specific times. It is a process continuing every minute of the day. Every test confronting man here is purposeful and necessary, even though its reason and end may be obscure. The measure of the duties, obligations, and service demanded from any man is dependent upon the strength, talents, and possessions which have been bestowed upon him. The more a man has, the stronger he is, so must the returns be in proportion, for he is that much better able to serve. Every man has been given according to the extent of the service expected from him. One of the less easy tasks for the enlightened man is to develop the ability to genuinely assess the service to be rendered in return for the things with which he has been endowed, and to serve without selfish hesitation. Each man has his particular place in the ranks of those who serve, and his own talents and possessions should be regarded only as a means of enlarging the pool of common good and the advancement of mankind. Those who deny their obligations inflict a lonely, awful doom upon themselves. As the weakness and faltering of any one man lessen the total of service rendered and retard the advance, it becomes the obligation of the strong to protect the weak, not in order that they should be shielded from things leading to their ultimate good or to carry a burden they decline, but to help them towards the attainment of strength. The aim should always be towards increasing the total amount of strength and ability at the disposal of the whole. Suffering and affliction are unavoidable if man is to develop into the godlike being intended. He must grow spiritually strong, possessing both courage and compassion, and to do this he cannot be protected from suffering and affliction. Can the oversheltered plant kept indoors withstand the sun's heat or the windy blast? Compassion was awakened in the heart of man only through suffering, and the noble qualities of courage and dedication were roused only through affliction. Those who, in the past, bore their suffering with fortitude became uplifting examples to their fellow men. However, it must be remembered that pain and suffering do not of themselves develop spirituality. They are not so important, but what is important is the manner in which they are endured, the spirited rising to the challenge and the courageous conquest. The suffering of each man should be an offering dedicated to the uplifting of mankind. What any man has to face and overcome is unimportant. What really matters is how he faces it and by what means he overcomes it. Where a man stands is also unimportant. The important thing is the direction in which he is moving. Life on earth was never meant to be spent in rest and tranquility. Its very tribulations and problems give it an added zest for those brave spirits who face up to them with courage and cheerfulness. Each man must discover for himself his own weakness and frailty. The creating divinity could have brought a painless world into being, but it would also have been one without purpose. It could have been peopled with perfect beings, but these could not have understood the meaning of suffering and tribulation. They would have been devoid of pity, tenderness, and sympathetic understanding. It is not through the divine will that man suffers. The divine will is that man fulfill the divine plan through learning to overcome the restrictions and illusions of the material existence by rising above them. The troubles and trials are there to goad man on, to stimulate him, to rouse him out of material lethargy and urge him towards the development of spirituality and wisdom. If man suffers unduly, it is because of his own heedlessness and waywardness, his ignorance of the true meaning and purpose of life. The earth is imperfect because its imperfections are essential. The social imperfections, as distinct from the natural imperfections, are the result of a man's lack of understanding and his dedication to material ends rather than spiritual ones. The trials and tests resulting from the natural imperfections of earth do not oppress man nearly as much as the afflictions man has brought upon himself through seeking to establish a life wholly within the material. It is necessary to know the difference between the two and to separate one from the other. The reason that there is so little divine intervention is not that divine remains indifferent, but that man has been given all the powers and wisdom necessary to deal with the affairs of earth. If he fails to make use of them, who then is to blame? The duty and obligation placed upon man relate to his reaching upward towards spirituality and outward towards perfection. If man declines to do this, he must accept the consequences and can blame none but himself. Were there no pain and suffering, man would be like a jellyfish drifting aimlessly with the currents in a sea of matter. Suffering, pain, and sorrow result from an existence within a material body and are not a part of man's spiritual heritage. The bonds of humanity are forged in the furnaces of life and not in its tranquil breezes. These are the directions for those who follow the great path of the true way, the never-failing guides and sustainers. Be grateful for the good things of life. Be patient under suffering and steadfast in adversity. Be diligent in the performance of your duty and never shirk your obligations. Bear the blows of affliction with cheerfulness and courage. Do not be quick to anger, hasty to argue, or rash in judgment, for this reveals your lack of self control. Avoid the weakness of unjust hate and envy, for they rebound upon yourself. Do not engage in undue frivolity, lest people come to think you petty-minded. Keep your temper under control, for an angry person is a confused one. Let your deportment be serene and confident. Keep your mind above earthly things and look towards the kingdom of the spirit and mansions of the soul. Never pay homage to evil men and never command what is wrong. Do not use lewd expressions or foul language, for this advertises your inferiority to others. Do not laugh at sly or dirty humor, for this displays an unclean and unhealthy mind. Do not raise money or possessions to the status of a god. Fit yourself to earn an honest and useful livelihood. Skill and knowledge are jewels in times of prosperity, a sword and shield in times of adversity, and sure guides through times of uncertainty. In the midst of material illusion, do not add to the confusion by acting falsely in word or deed. Be diligent and consistent in studying the wisdom contained within these books. Never forget the benefits that accrue from a life well led. And remember that whatever befalls is intended for your own good. If a man, establish yourself by your manliness, and if a woman by your femininity. Be modest in manner and calm in bearing, for men avoid the excitable man who is a weak reed to lean upon in times of stress and a hazard in danger. The boastful man falls far short of the image he intends to create, so weigh your words carefully, for the spoken word cannot be recalled. A man careless with words is also unreliable in other ways. Never make a confidant of one who babbles. Forget what has been done and cannot be altered, and do not be concerned about things which may never happen. If you have anything of value, keep it away from an envious man. Arise early in the morning and greet the day eagerly, for the sluggard and lie abed are already partially dead. Eat and drink in moderation, taking sufficient for the well-being of the body without overloading it. Seek the company of those who are your superiors in wisdom, skill, and spirituality, so that you will be raised up to prosper. Always be ready to heed advice and to accept instruction, bearing in mind that it is more profitable to listen than to talk. The man who cannot restrain his tongue rides a wild stallion. Keep it in check and avoid returning a hasty answer to those who say unkind things, which may stem only from their own weakness. Be patient and forbearing under provocation, and restrain your arm when tempted to raise in anger. The man who remains unmoved under provocation is a better man than he who strikes. Always speak calmly and with few words. Speak softly and clearly, for only fools shout to cover their own ignorance. The ox bellows while the bull snorts. One of the greatest failures of life is to lose a friend. If this misfortune befall a man, he should search his heart carefully and sincerely, lest it should happen again. Never seek to maintain a friendship through hypocrisy or flattery, for this is no friendship, and it displays the double heart of a deceiver. Be proud, but not haughty, straight-talking, but not insulting, bold, but not aggressive, patient, but not servile. Bear in mind that it is better for a man to be numbered among the insulted than among the insulters, among the slandered and not among the slanderers. Keep your feet firmly upon the great path of the true way, using moderation in all things as your guiding light. Never be effusive of speech or too friendly towards those who are no more than acquaintances. Keep all at arm's length until they have established themselves for what they are and their true natures are revealed. Never allow the secrets of your heart to be handed around as common property. Do not be oversensitive and ever ready to take offense, for this will only turn people against you. Never trespass upon the privacy of others, and let all follow the paths of their inclinations. Attend to your own affairs and keep your thoughts from the affairs of others. Of thoughts, words, and deeds, only deeds have any established value on earth. Thoughts are intangible things in a world of matter, while words have no meaning unless translated into action. Goodness and wisdom should not be secreted, for when their possessor cuts himself off from others, what purpose do they serve, and how can they be measured and tested? The good man who fears contamination by the world has no confidence in his goodness and renders no service. If a man is found sinking into a morass of mud, he who tries to rescue him cannot be rescued by anyone standing off. The man who attempts to clean up the morals of the people is like the dusting cloth, which cleans only by becoming soiled itself.